As you may or may not know, over this past weekend, very, very busy, very, very active in over this, let's say, weekend with the Fan Expo, Dallas Fan Expo and everything. And a lot of folks that you guys know we're cool, we're friends, and we collaborate on a lot of stuff. We're all out here. It started Thursday, where we had the Dallas Fan Meetup. Friday night, it was hosted by, of course, Friday Night Tice, Geeks and Gamers. So Neurotic, basically the entire Friday Night Tice team minus Ass and X-Ray Girl and Chrissy Mayer. We're all on there, and we're all there physically, and it was an awesome experience. And I did a video follow-up. You guys can check that out, talking about my experience with that and how eye-opening even for me that it actually was. And then, of course, going into, what was that, Saturday, it was a last-minute thing. I believe they announced it on the Real BBC on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So I only had a few days to basically let people know that this was even going to be a thing. And there was a panel on at the expo that was done randomly. Not randomly, it was more last minute. And it was myself, Gary from Neurotic, of course, Jeremy and Ryan from Geeks and Gamers, as well as Quarter Black, Garrett. And we got to talk about, our situations as far as us being in the position and what this means. And even in that short period of time, we packed that entire room. You guys can see a picture here that I took of it as we were up there, and it was flowing outside. There were people that didn't get in as well because it was basically at capacity. And that was done with like 3 days notice. 3 days notice at an expo that people that we told were going to be here. And I posted about that, and that I could imagine that this, if we had more time and we decided to actually do this, well, it would have been, this wouldn't have, it's just, we could have easily fill out so big of a space. And it showed, even though we were over capacity at the event that we did at Thursday. But it shows how this message, of course, resonates with so many people, and how many people are really, it's just a real little movement that is happening here, where people are kind of detaching from what is deemed as the acceptable kind of legacy narrative. And it has been an awesome experience, certainly for me. And I know I can speak for the other guys that are a part of this as well, in that this is real. Like, we could say that it's real. This is something that, you have people that are very enthusiastic about this stuff. Hearing and talking and conversing with all of these people over the past weekend it really puts things in a perspective that we're on to something very special here. And the hilarious part is it's basically all of what I've said. You have a post like this where there was a guy who was snitching, him and his another egg-shaped dude who had for some reason tagged me and thought it was okay because he saw me and Gina Carano take a picture. And of course, this egg-shaped dude had something to say. But this interesting post by this guy kind of represents everything. And what he did was he tagged the expo, and he said, "I'm floored that the Fan Expo Dallas brought these toxic hate mongers. I'm guessing they weren't vetted properly." Remember when I told you that if you want to own these guys, if you want to really take it to them, it's not simply about talking about this stuff. That's part of it, though. What they fear and what they are trying to speak out against and trying to prevent is that in the eyes of a far more significant block of people, the mainstream, or what they deem as the acceptable forms of media, acceptable forms of entertainment, you guys replace that, and it becomes not just us. It's not about us individually that we're at the table. It's about being detached from what they individually control. That's what they've always been scared of. That's what they don't want. This is why I am doing what I can as a competitor, and what we're doing with the comic book stuff. Number one is something that was always my aspirations. I had the money now and everything. It's the perfect time to do it. but also understanding that they're going to do exactly this. They're going to try to cope with this by being dirty, by trying to play these dirty tricks. They're going to try to legitimize it. Oh, well, Gina Carano is not in Star Wars anymore. Therefore, yeah, her first fucking film after it, which was completely detached from basically Hollywood, didn't, I don't know, do what fucking Star Wars movie would do. Therefore, it's a failure. They're going to try to delegitimize that because they're scared. All this stuff like, oh, you're not going to win, you guys, that's all a cope. This is how they really feel right here. It's that they don't want the idea that we showed up, we packed out this fucking room at this convention. They don't want to see it come to fruition. That's all. They don't want to see this become something bigger than what, because that's what they truly fear. They fear not, and the reason being is because they can't control it. It's detached from them. And this is what, when that other fat son of a bitch said what he said, I said in response, like, hey, it's so hilarious watching you guys basically have aneurysms, if you will, pop blood vessels, because you can't control this. None of what we don't answer to you. None of what you say, aside from giving us content and us making fun of you, it doesn't matter. You're not stopping anything. And that makes them very angry, because that's the luxury that they got, and the luxury of what they had. These are not very creative people that we're dealing with. They get by mainly because they're able to be tied to some mega corporation or what they deem as, again, the acceptable, legitimate form of entertainment. The culture. This is why the authoritarian left are so giddy about that sort of stuff, because they're like, well, we control what you can't help but to consume. And they get off on that. But the fun of it all, the spitefulness, that goes away, because, or rather, it goes away in the event people replace that. And me and Gina, we had to talk about this on Sunday. So obviously I had met Gina on Saturday. Me and a couple of guys, kind of backstage, if you will, we had talked and chatted with her, me, Jeremy, and Ryan and Gary. And then we had dinner with her on Sunday. All of us, you might have saw some pictures and all that stuff come from that. And her and I were chatting about this sort of stuff. I'm reassuring, making sure she understands. She reassuring me, kind of like, dude, we're on the brink of something here, and they know it. And they're gonna try all of the little dirty tricks, but we have to continue to do what it is that we do. They're going to delegitimize it. They're going to say you're a failure. They're going to say you're losing because you're no longer tied to the mega corporations that they controlled. But you start seeing even if it's mildly, because everybody starts somewhere. That's how you know it's coping. It's like, imagine trying to compare Gina's first movie, right? Imagine trying to compare that is detached from Hollywood to a franchise tied to a mega corporation that's been here longer than any of us have been alive. Like, that's insane, right? It's insane. But the only reason they're setting that standard is because it's spite. They don't want it to get off the ground. They don't want you to give it an attempt, and they don't want to have to see that, well, all of what we say, the just evil claims that they make about myself, about Gary, about Jeremy, about Gina Carano, it doesn't stick. Like, it doesn't stick, and we keep moving and we keep continuing to grow. That's how you own them. You want to, quote unquote, own your libs. It ain't about just memeing them, though that's part of it. You should meme them and make fun of them and mock and shame them. But what they're truly scared of, what they're truly fearful of, is that there are going to be people that come along, and all of those things that they try to say about you that has derailed people's careers doesn't work. When they find out that you're ideologically different, you're politically different, and then they try to end you, and all of those little claims and stuff that they make, and they've pimped the entire industry, entire entertainment industries into doing what they want them to do, and they realize, and it starts to set in, that simply does not work on us because we control what we control. And you can control maybe and pimp out the mega corporations and all that, but our stuff you can't. You can say whatever you will, but the delegitimizer saying y'all not gonna win, you can't possibly do, all that is a coping mechanism, and they're trying to speak it into existence. But they can't stop us at the end of the day. They see that we can, and it really, again, puts it into perspective. And Gina she couldn't stop praising the handful of us that were there, with between myself, again, Jeremy, Ryan, and Gary, about like she like, I mean, again, they could co-sign this as well, just how highly she thinks of even us. Right, we got a lot of behind the scenes information that'll get announced about stuff that we found out about, getting her perspective, and we're gonna let her tell those stories. But just she knows that, you know, this is like the punk rock crew, not them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's they're the old guard, and we have probably more people that are resonating with us than we would like to give ourselves credit for. So all this convention stuff that you see, like this is stuff that we can do on our own as well, and as indicative of 3 days notice at this expo that we will be there, we could pack out spots because this stuff really resonates with people. And it's fun to watch. You idiots think that you could stop any fucking thing. And we just continue to move forward. Those words don't stick. Hate mongers, toxic, homophobes, racists. Doesn't work. Because we control it. That's the whole point of why we want to be decentralized from you, and why we're talking about alternatives so much. Why it's so admirable that Gina's doing what she's doing, and everybody, other people that are in our pockets, are doing what it is they're doing, because it's not attached to you. You can't do anything. You can bitch and moan about it and try to say that it's something that it's not, but understand how retarded you look and thinking that, well, because we're not, it's good, they're going to do it with the book. I come out with a book, we can make millions we can make $1 million revenue off of one book. We could do that, and they're still going to say, well, you're not Marvel. Well, no shit. Marvel's been around since longer than you and I have been alive. We're just getting started, you idiot. You can't realistically expect us to be there right out the gate. And just because we're not going through you does not mean it's not legitimate or illegitimate. No, it just means we're not attached from you, and that's the point. So I got a lot of perspective this weekend over how real this is. And I said in my previous video, Gary, you know, before we had even linked up this past weekend, he would say, man, dude, trust me, man, whatever you do with this, or just release of this first book in this company is going to destroy any of your expectations. And this past weekend put a lot of that stuff into perspective, that what we have is real. Dude, I haven't even given you guys much information about it, but it was the number one question that I got asked at this expo, at the meetup. It's the number one question. When is it coming out? I cannot wait for the Rippaverse. I can't, like, this is huge, man. This is, we're on the brink of something special. And our haters, they know that too. They just don't want to accept it or believe it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. That was the whole point. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.